The history of healthcare in the Northwest Territories is tied in with gold mining. Between 1938 and 2003, Conn Mine produced gold. The Conn head frame remains an important landmark in Yellowknife, visible from miles away. The very first hospital was built at the Conn Mine site. In 1937, the Conn Mine Hospital was where Yellowknife's first doctor, Dr. Oliver Stanton, and his wife Ruth delivered the first children born to the city's fledgling mining community. It was the primary hospital in Yellowknife until 1947. In 1948, the Red Cross Hospital opened its doors on the shores of Frame Lake. When the Red Cross left in 1960, the hospital was renamed to Stanton Regional Hospital. When that hospital burned down in 1966, the Elks Hall became the temporary hospital for a year while construction was underway for a replacement. In 1967, Stanton Yellowknife Hospital opened on Franklin Avenue, becoming the primary regional hospital until 1988. Robin Gregg arrived in 1978 as a lab technologist at Stanton Yellowknife Regional Hospital.
So when I first came in 1978, it was a fairly small hospital. It was one floor. The lab was a very narrow corridor. Radiology had one or two radiology rooms, very small area as well. OBS and surgery shared a desk, so that they didn't share nursing staff, but they shared a common workspace.
Heather Chang joined Stanton as a newly graduated nurse in 1981.
Stanton Hospital at that time was all one floor. We actually did have a couple of trailers on one end of a hallway. So it was quite small. I think we only had about 30 or 35 beds. The emergency department, we often got to practice some different skills because the emergency department at that time would close at midnight. And if anyone did come to the emergency department, the security guard would let them in the building, and one of us would be called to go down and see the patient.
I mean, you've got to think of the population of Yellowknife has grown 100% since then. It's gone from about 9,000 to 18,000, 20,000 now, right? So the population's even grown, and the territories was a lot smaller at that point in time as well.
The old hospital, we were definitely small, but the feeling of family and cohesiveness and collaboration was so strong that the space didn't bother us too much. In the old hospital, if you were very ill, there were certain rooms that we designated that we would take care of you. There was one particular room on the surgery unit in the old hospital right by the nursing station that we knew that was where our sick patients were. When we moved to the new Stanton, we had a 4-bed ICU unit on the 3rd floor. That was a whole new concept to us, to have an ICU unit with cardiac monitors and electronic beds and all those special devices that we had not had before.
Pediatrics is a very busy unit. We had a pediatrician who kept us very busy, and we had lots of diseases in the young children at that point in time. It got to the point where it was always overcrowded, and we had actually some of the children in cribs or small drawers that were pulled out sometimes because of the overflow, and that's where we had to put the small neonates or small children in those type of facilities to have a place for them to stay. Yeah, so we quickly outgrew that place, and technology certainly became an issue. I remember one day we had a flood in the lab. Every spring it seemed like we'd have a flood in some part of the building, and in the lab one time it just came pouring through the walls from the roof. It was pretty unique, and the director of nursing at that point in time actually literally rolled up her pant legs and had a mop and was mopping up the actual floods.
By the time I came in 1981, things were kind of falling apart around us. I remember on the surgery unit where we would sit and chart on the medical records, there was a huge hole in the ceiling, and every spring we couldn't sit there because we would get dripped on because the water would come through, and that was happening more and more. Things were kind of falling apart.
We transitioned from called Stanton Yellowknife Hospital in the late 70s, early 80s to became the regional hospital when we moved in here in 88, and then eventually we became more territorial and focused, so providing more territorial type programs and support to the rest of the patients of the territories and health centers.
What I have loved the most is getting to know the staff that I work with and the patients that I work with. Learning from other people, getting to know the different cultures of the Aboriginal peoples that we serve, their language, their different cultures, has been very exciting for me as a nurse, because nursing isn't just about doing a dressing change or sending the patient to the operation. It's more holistic than that, and I think that's the part that I've enjoyed the most.